You're listening to the Talk Shop Podcast, Episode 3, with host Richie Tavaki and guest Andrew Morrison. I'm very happy and thankful to welcome my friend Andrew Morrison to the Talk Shop Podcast. We get into a plethora of topics, including things going on in the business, AI, mindset, and good practices to go with. Stay tuned. All right. Back on the podcast, and I got my friend Andrew Morrison with me. How's it going, man?
What's going on, Richie?
It's
good, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm so glad we were able to get this together, because it's like I was like, okay, cool. I scheduled like 2 weeks in advance before doing this, and then all of a sudden my schedule got swapped over. I'm like, really? And then I was like, oh man, I was like, let me see if they'll change it back. And then a week comes up, and I'm like, I gotta play it safe. So I let you know, and they were like, hey, we're gonna do this. I was like, dude, I'm sorry, but I was so glad to get this sorted out and things.
Man, dealing with two different people's schedules is always a hassle, especially people in this industry where we're as busy as we are. But I'm glad we can make it work, man. I've missed you.
Yeah, you too, man. So I do have a question for you that I've been like dying to ask you.
Yeah.
How do you take your coffee?
Usually I take, sometimes I'll take it black. Sometimes I will take it with a little bit of oat milk. I've got this right now. I've been using this oat milk creamer that tastes like oatmeal cookies.
Ooh, I love oatmeal cookies.
Yeah, either that or black.
Nice. Yeah, I love oatmeal cookies, and everyone's looking at me like, but it's all about the chocolate chips. Like, no, it's about the oatmeal. I will pay money.
It's really smart with the creamer because it's already an oat milk based creamer, and so they're able to just add those other flavors that kind of like capture the rest of it. It's really cool. I like it.
Nice. So one of the main things about this podcast is I really want to interview people who are down in the trenches. Okay, they're down in the trenches, and either they're like at a point where they're about to really make that breakthrough on the career, or already have things. Like you've been, we've known each other for like a few years now. Like we met during the height of COVID. Things I think it was in like a random ass server that I forgot about nowadays. And then we just
I don't
started.
think it was random. I think that was a really good Discord server because I mean the server was built based on the community that was built in Bloombox Studios.
Oh,
so
before
a
that.
lot of people.
We met before that. We there was a
That's
random.
right.
Yeah. It was
I'm
way
sorry, that was
before
just
that.
That's right. That was just the one we were most prominent in. That's where we first actually started like having real conversations. But
Yeah.
we did meet before that.
Yeah.
I forgot about
See, I was like, yeah, I
years ago. Man.
yeah, I was like, I remember this day. I was like, I think this is a day that's important to remember. And 3 years later, I was like, oh yeah, I was definitely right about that and stuff. And now here we are. So the main thing I want to go into is essentially like your journey. Like to start off, like tell us about yourself. What is it that you do as a voice actor?
That's a really broad question. What do I do on a day-to-day basis? How did
So,
I start? Like what?
How did you get into this?
Yeah, so I came from a coffee background, and so I used to be a coffee roaster. And so one time I got this, when I was on my break, I got this advertisement that said, get a job as a voice actor. And like, I've always been in sales or media or like some form of business management. So I was like, I'd love to get a job as a voice actor, thinking that it was a job back then. Because I mean, looking at radio stations, you would hear the same voice over and over doing the same promos. You would see a lot of the same voice actors in animation or cartoons or video games working
Right.
for the same studios over and over. So I thought it was maybe a W-2 sort of situation. So I was like, yeah. So I was filling out the stuff on this site, and I was like, demos, I don't know what that is. Experience none, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it was like $500 for the membership, and I was like, well, I don't have $500 right now. My business just kind of went out of business, so that's not really a leap I can take. But I was really, really curious, and there had to have been another avenue to go about it. So I just went home and I started doing my homework. And one of the first jobs that I ended up booking was by contacting a studio that was building out DLCs for Fallout 4.
Nice.
Because after Fallout 76 came out, a company started coming and doing DLCs directly for Bethesda. So I ended up booking this really cool ghoul role, and I became obsessed with voiceover work. And then after that, it was just kind of went down a little bit from there. I started booking audiobooks. I started getting into e-learning because my family came from a teaching background. started learning more and more about commercial. I started just kind of paving my path, figuring out who I could connect with, figuring out who I felt like I could collaborate with, and just continued pushing, continued auditioning and marketing, and here we are.
Nice. So you mentioned marketing, like it's become very clear nowadays, especially at this point in when COVID hit, it's not enough to be a good voice actor. You got to be an actor, then at least when you're starting off. But even still, then you got to cover acting, then marketing, and then other elements that really add to the pot of the growth of the actor or voice actor. And you mentioned marketing. So what are some of the things, and we were just talking about before we started too, what are some of the things that like drew you into marketing and then allowed you to craft a plan that worked for you and was effective?
Well, I look at most things as marketing. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, networking is marketing, meeting people is marketing, sending a message over Instagram or Facebook or email or cold calling or going up to a studio or going up to an advertising agency. I believe those are all different forms of marketing, because marketing is just, you don't know that I'm here and you don't know that I do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Me introduce that to you, for you if you ever have a need and if we are ever a good fit for each other. I find most of my success to be between Instagram and email.
Got it.
Those have been like kind of my bread and butter, because I mean, I get stuff from my agents all the time, and I have repeat clients, and repeat clients are definitely the goal. You don't want to be constantly searching for new work, but at the same time, you want to keep new leads in your pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
because you might have a bunch of studios that need stuff from you right now, but next month it might be dry. And doing this full time, I need consistent work.
Right.
And so, I mean, I spend a lot of time on Instagram looking up new studios that, through a hashtag, I can find studios that recently posted some of their work that I might not have found that company through a Google search.
Right.
And then figuring out their emails, figuring out something that we have in common, and shooting them an email saying, "Hey, I love this thing that you did, and I loved the amount of work that you put into it," or "You work for this company, and this company has made a big change in my community. I was curious how you guys source voiceover talent."
Mm-hmm.
And just through that, because when you're doing an audition, you're up against hundreds, thousands of other voiceover talent. But if you're going directly to the production company, if they need something broader, they might go through an agency. But if they are working on their e-learning protocols, or they're working on small commercials for their social media, or even a local car commercial, then you're that person, or maybe you and seven other people are that person for them. And so it helps to actually build that relationship, and foster it into something.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Things in that the marketing aspect applies to a lot of things. I think as people start delving more into marketing for their brand, whether it be voice acting, boats, or what have you, they start realizing there's like, oh wow, there's marketing opportunities everywhere. Like one of the things I'm currently working on now is I'm going to so many different sites within San Francisco because I live in the Bay Area, and all of these places have opportunities and people who are probably looking for something, whether it be in voice or some other skill set that happens. And it's like, wow, it's like everywhere you look, there's something. There's either a problem to solve that you can probably solve, or new opportunities to collaborate, endorse, or what have you. And it's really cool
Right.
to see.
And I've heard a lot of people talking about how hard it is to get into this industry. But you're looking at places like pay to play websites where you're seeing that hundreds or thousands of people have already auditioned for what you're auditioning for, or you look through anything, and you know that a lot of people are auditioning. And so you're wondering why you're not able to book work. Now, one, auditions are a numbers game, excuse me. But also, there is so much work to go around in this industry, even with the surge that we saw when the pandemic happened, and a lot of people were home and found out about this magical world,
Hmm.
and decided that they wanted to drop their hat in the ring. There's so much opportunity. Media is constantly changing. Advertising agencies, one closes down, a new one is opening. Like there's so much work to go around. There is voice in everything. every time you hear a live promotion, every time you go fill up your gas and you have like that person telling you, hey, did you know that we have special inside where if you buy
Hmm.
a Coca-Cola and then you'll get a $1 hot dog? Like that's voiceover. Radio's voiceover. E-learning's voiceover. Explainer videos are voiceover. Even the voiceover artists that do narration for people's YouTube channels
Yep.
or who do there's media everywhere. So there's an opportunity for voiceover everywhere.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that, because when I started off in this, I came from a stage background. And I was sitting there. I came from stage because I started in the arts at 19. Yeah, there we go. So I started kind of late. And then after that, I was just doing it. I did it because I missed booking my classes. And my mom
Yeah.
said, hey, why don't you try this? You've always been talking about this since you've been growing. So, and you're new in college right now. Why not? I tried it. I loved it. It really got me out of my shell and went from there. But then as I started escalating with it, that's when I learned. I was like, there's a lot to go around. Did plays and stuff, and I enjoyed it, and it started allowing me to set goals. When voiceover came around, that's when I was like, I got the usual stuff like, oh, you have a great voice. And then I go in, I was like, yeah, great voice is great, but you got the acting skills. I was like, I got the acting background, and then there was so much more to work when it came to being a voiceover artist. And I was like, okay, cool. And then after that, I was like, okay, I want to do anime. I love anime. And then I realized from there, it has its own hurdles to get through, but it shouldn't be so discouraging that you ignore every other thing around. And like you just said, there's so much out there that can contribute and throw into your personal bag of experience to when you finally get to that.
Right. And I mean, and you spoke of anime, and I've seen that as a goal for a lot of the people that are in like these kinds of communities where their main focus is to try and to get into something anime.
Right.
And if they don't manage to get on the big three rosters, then they get discouraged. But there is so much other dubbing work other than anime. Dongwa, there is Turkish dubbing. There's dubbing is any other language that is
Hmm.
turned into something more native. So for us, it would be English.
Right.
So there are so many opportunities to get into the dubbing world and to get into the animation world without it necessarily needing to be anime.
Hmm. Agreed. So going from that topic into into more on the topic in general, not just of anime, but what's going on within the voiceover community, because you're very active, not just in the community, but in the business itself. What are some of the trends that you notice that are either on the up or down take?
I've seen in animation, I've seen things a lot more authentic. It's
Hmm.
not quirky voices anymore. I mean, you can go and listen to any animation project that has been done within any major animation that's been done within the past even 5 years or let alone 3 years. Um, and you can see that it's a lot more authentic, it's a lot more real. People are casting for actual voices, unless it's like a celebrity cast that I've seen. It's a lot of the newer people that are breaking in because of their natural voice, because that gives you a little bit more room to play around with emotion and to crack a little bit when you're under distress, or to bring out that brightness when you're happy.
Hmm.
And so I've seen, and the same has gone for commercial reads, where they've been a little bit more tongue in cheek lately, but they've been more conversational. Now, people hear conversational all the time, and I was actually just talking to a colleague about this. Um, it seems that there's been an overcorrection
Right.
in what people think the conversational read is. It's not boring. People hear conversational read and they're like, "Well, I guess I got to talk like this." Yeah, Volvo. But you know what? You're still supposed to bring that element of you. It's just staying away from that super announcery type of voice. Like
Hmm.
it's just steering away from that and actually bringing a real person to the microphone. You can still have fun and you can still talk across the room as if you're talking to somebody that's in there with you, or you can still bring out your past experiences to kind of hone into what the script might be asking for.
Right.
It's not. It doesn't have to be that low, boring. Well, this is how I have a conversation with people, and so no, it's not. You
Yeah.
don't talk to people like that. You
No.
you might and I think it's just that that fear of not wanting to be too polished.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
people are steering away from that because For the polished read, AI is slowly starting to grasp that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is going to be a lot of like those polished voiceovers that are done with AI. I do see AI as being a big trend in the industry, and I'm not scared of it. I'm embracing it.
Okay.
But you need to bring a piece of you, because those articles that make you, and those elements that come in your voice, that those vibrations in your voice that make a connection with somebody, that is cannot be replicated.
Agreed. And now that you mentioned the topic of AI, because I did a video on that earlier, like it was a cut and dry video to tell people this is what using AI unethically looks like, and this is what it looks like when they have all the paperwork out and then a person signs their name to it. Unethically is they stole someone's voice without a permission and used it in a text-to-speech module. That's the step. But ethically speaking, if they put all of that on the table first and then said, if you sign here, then this is what comes after signing here, you have all of it right in front of you, and then it's from there.
Well, I don't do work for other people's AIs. I
Right.
agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't do like voice to text work. I instead have been working with this company to develop an AI of my voice to use for licensing to other companies.
Okay.
So, like say a newspaper company, for example, the amount that they would have to pay me, the amount of time that it would take for me to read an entire newspaper, so that way they can have it on their website for, like, say, blind people to be able to know what the daily news is.
Right.
It just wouldn't make sense from a voiceover artist, and from a business perspective. They wouldn't be able to dish out that amount of money every day, and I wouldn't be able to dedicate the time every day in order to do that. So creating an AI voice for other companies where you can license it out to them, I believe that is a smart move.
That is a good point, and I didn't even think about that, because then you have all the cards in your pocket for your own voice, and it's not like, oh, you didn't sign it in perpetuity saying, okay, I forked over my voice to this business. You are the business.
Well, I will never sign anything in perpetuity.
Exactly.
Ever.
Thanks.
I mean, unless it's like internal stuff, like, you know what I mean? Internal corporate narration, that's kind of
Right.
like given that it's in perpetuity, and some IVR work. But like for the most part, if a script says in perpetuity, I turn it away.
Yeah, and for those listening, in perpetuity or buyout means permanent, like forever.
Right, and so if you, congratulations, somebody paid you like $4,000 for an in perpetuity shoe spot, but now for the rest of your career, just in case they decided to dish out that spot back because they have the rights to it, you now can't do any other shoe company ever.
Right, and that's important for people to know, because, like, especially people who are new, they're like, what does in perpetuity mean? I had to go back earlier when I saw the word again and asked one of my coaches, like, it means forever, right? They're like, yes. Buyback means the same thing. They're like, yes. So,
Yeah, I think there was one case where somebody said in perpetuity throughout the entire universe or something along those lines. I guess for like just in case we do end up progressing towards Mars within the next couple of years. But yeah,
yeah,
like it was in perpetuity throughout the entire galaxy. It was something weird like that.
yeah. So it's a lot, but it's definitely good for people to have a grasp in, because this is where the red tape comes in, and they have to
Right.
know what's on the paper in order to do so. So,
Right.
next to that, like, we both know the importance of being a good actor versus just having a good voice, and like you're mentioning conversational read, I'm glad to hear your take on it as well, because when I was still going through like coaching for commercial, I was like, okay, I should probably cover the conversational read. Let me go ask my coach when I book. I was like, what does conversational like look or sound like? And he told me, it's like, it's a lot simpler than people think. It's really just it's like, the good news is we've been working on it this whole time, and this is what it's going to go by. We went through it. I was like, oh wow, it really isn't that much of a puzzle anymore. It's like you said, bringing yourself to it authentically and just really not trying so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for actors who, one of the other important things that we know for just any actor in general, what research material would you recommend new actors study up on, whether it be getting a daily routine, learning, looking at stuff, viewing material of any kind? What do you think would be good?
Well, looking at anything to as far as the business, or as far as the read.
As far as the business and then the read.
Okay, so as far as the business, looking at any way that you can automate your business and make your life easier.
Right.
Like right now, I'm working with some software that'll help automate my email stuff. I still do a lot of research when it comes to who I email and what I put into that email because I want it to be short and sweet, but I want to be able to make a connection with them. But I also want to be able to automate my follow-ups. You know what I mean? I want a program that's going to continually send to them until they respond.
Right.
Because if once they respond and say no, then that's that. But sometimes my emails end up in spam. Sometimes I don't get them. So just because somebody didn't respond to an email, don't assume they just looked at it and said nope and then just dipped. But finding any ways to automate your business and make your life easier because this is a business. From any standpoint, we are actors,
Mm-hmm.
but doing voiceover full time is a business. You have to file all your own taxes. You have to go through an account. The easiest way to do it is to open up a business account of some form, have all of your payments go through that, and then pay yourself. That was one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I first started in this industry, and it's still kind of hurting me now because trying to buy a house,
Mm-hmm.
I can be like, look, here's my bank statement of all the money that I made this month, and they're like, yeah, but we have no idea where that came from, and so having to account for all of that, it's so much easier to just run it through a business account.
Yep.
But figuring out how a business runs, how to market, and then figuring out how to connect with people because that's a really difficult part when it comes to marketing without sending out these blank emails. Hi, I'm a voice actor and I'd like to work for your company. Please hire me. I'm starving. It was really long, and then you end up trying to tell them everything, and it's a long-winded email. Just any step of the process, try to understand every step of what you're doing to the fullest. I'm going to send an email. How do I send the best email that's going to get the best return? I have to run my business. How do I automate as many things as possible so that way things are running and I can focus on making connections and voicing things?
Right.
And also, this is a problem that I really have, but I've seen a lot of people have great success in it, and I'm actively working on it. Like I've got a software that I'm working with, and I'm working on scheduling. But
Mm-hmm.
social media is a big thing, and not just all your boost selfies, but post things who you are. Do you do you enjoy using a product and it's something that's been a part of your household for a while? Post it and tag the company in it. They might notice it. But also it gets your name out there and it gets people familiar with you. And if somebody wants to go and work with you and try to figure out who you are, it helps give them a better sense of who they're working with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the acting part goes, I mean, acting classes, acting classes,
Yep.
acting classes, acting classes, because it's not all going to be Shakespearean.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Think of every actor you've heard in any animation, in any you've seen in any movie, all of those nuances of what they do and those new techniques on how they learn to engage people and how they learn how to how to add more of themselves to copy. That's what acting classes are.
Yep.
It's figuring out how to be a good actor. It's not just like a three-step program that people go and take and then they're like, oh, I know everything about acting.
Mm-hmm.
It like acting classes are invaluable.
I
They
agree.
really are.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when you start learning the fundamentals of what it takes to be an actor, or really a lot of things, then you start finding out ways as a person to uniquely use them that work specialized for you. Like for me, after going through, because I'd went through acting classes and I was classically, I was slightly classically trained because I kind of dodged Shakespeare classes every now and then, but I still went. But the other thing I learned is as I started growing as an actor, I was like, this is about the
Yeah. Now,
human
and
nature.
I love Shakespearean
Mm-hmm.
acting classes. Don't get me wrong; they are so much fun, and you do learn more, and you learn different pieces to add to your toolkit for when those kind of notes might need to come out.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I love Shakespearean acting classes, but yeah, no, I read a lot. I do a lot of research. I sit in a lot of webinars, and I take a lot of classes and
Y-
improv classes. Improv
Oh
classes are
yeah,
so important.
it's
Oh
so
my
fun.
God, improv classes are amazing because they teach you how to get not only how to get out of your comfort zone, but like how to think outside of the box.
Right.
So there's like quick, quippy things when you're like, hey, how do I add something to the script? Or hey, how do I add a new emotion to the script on the spot? It's not
Mm-hmm.
just words. It teaches you how to be fluid
Yes.
and how to move like water. So
Mm.
that way, no matter what's thrown at you, no matter what, even as a work at home voiceover artist, things are going to get thrown at you, even not over direct session. You're going to need quick turnarounds. You're going to need to be, when you're maneuvering through a script, you're going to want to be able to add something that people take notice of, and it captures them, and they're listening. When you're behind the microphone, somebody is listening to you.
Yeah.
So give them something worth listening. And improv classes have helped me greatly in that.
I agree. And then the other thing is like learning those fundamentals and then seeing how you can apply them in either your own daily life or even glean what you're learning from them, what you're learning from your own daily life and bring it in to your voice work, whether it be your marketing, your business, your acting chops, all of that. It just starts enhancing the individual more. And like you said, those unique reads are what people want to hear. Because I was actually interviewing Kai earlier because we were talking about this, and I'd been talking to a lot of people. It's like, hey, I'm interested to hear your story, like you. And Kai, being a director, he's like, I'm telling you, I was sitting there for 2 hours listening to auditions for my new project, and like 90% of them sounded like the same.
Yeah, no, as a casting director myself, where I do part-time casting for HBO. Yeah, no, you will get a lot of stuff that just sounds the same over and over and over and over again. And honestly, from most auditions that you send in, they're only going to listen to the first 3 seconds.
Yep.
That's how long you have to hook them. 3 seconds, right out the gate. At least in the first 3 to 5 seconds, give them something a little different to keep them listening.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's something that a lot of us as actors are really learning after we learn fundamentals, then other things of what to do. It's like, all right, how do I put my own spin on this? I am a unique individual, so how can I bring that uniqueness into my reads and get people's attention with that instead of without saying, hi, I'm a voice actor, hire me, I'm starving. Yeah, so that's definitely really important. What are do's and do nots that you would advise a voice actor about? Like, what's stuff that could potentially damage their career?
It could damage their career. I mean, I don't know. Don't post anything too dicey, I guess. I really don't know, because I'm not... I think that's just more of a common sense thing.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
I agree.
I approach it very basically. Like, I don't overthink everything that I do, but I have an understanding that anything that I do will reach a wide audience.
Right.
And so I just approach everything with that. How do I want my audience to perceive me? I don't pretend to be some guru. I've done a lot of really, really cool stuff over the past couple of years, and I continue to do really, really cool stuff on a daily basis. And I'm very grateful to have this job. But I mean, I don't post things or say that I booked a role when it hasn't been confirmed that I've booked it, or I haven't asked the studio permission. I mean, I don't know. I mean, as far as what I'm doing and what I'm posting, I understand that will be broadcast to a large audience, and I don't sign things in perpetuity. I mean, really, the biggest do is just grind.
Yeah.
Just grind. This is the most amazing job that I've ever had. This is also the hardest job that I've ever had, because every time you get over a hurdle, you will have to fight harder. When you get an agent, when you finally get an agent and you start booking through them and you start doing auditions for them, now you're competing against other top talent at that level. Once you start getting AAA video games, now you're auditioning against Nolan North and Dave Fennoy, and you know what I mean? So like, every step of it gets harder, but the harder you are willing to work and the more seeds you are willing to plant, the more will grow.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that one of the things actors, especially if they're new to voice acting, don't realize is once it comes to getting to those levels, are they ready to perform? Because we hear all those stories about, oh, this person was an overnight sensation. He just showed up, or he or she just showed up and they were hired. Like that, exactly. The likelihood, like, it's one of those things of, is a meteor going to hit Earth? It's like, yeah, what's the likelihood? Probably a 1.11% chance. It's a very small chance. In the meantime, everyone else who is trying to get into this, they're working hard. They're exploring other options that other people aren't. They're trying to find ways to really bring themselves into it, and at the same time trying to find their own way through and what works for them and how it is they can get attention. So many things. And then when they get to that level, a lot of their past experience in that really helped refine their competitive edge, so they have one that's different from others, which allows them to stand out for stuff that maybe the others won't fit for
Right.
and stuff. So that's really important to talk about. And it's people start realizing it's like, oh wow, this isn't just about, there's so many other things to do with this in order to make it. And then, like you said, every hurdle comes with its own new challenges that you then have to learn how to problem solve from there.
Right.
Stuff.
Especially if you want to make a full-time living doing this, because then you're having to research a lot of different industries.
Mm-hmm.
Because corporate work, it has its own vernacular and how people communicate back and forth and how things are read and how things are done. Animation, then video games, the funner side of things, those have a certain way that they're done, and the studios communicate between themselves and between actors in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And so each industry that you go into is like owning a whole new business. And so understanding like what goes into each piece, and understanding that you're going to have to do, if you want to do a wide range of things, you're going to have to do all of those pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Things, and it's throwing your hand into more than just, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want a single spec for this, and it's really going to limit options. So from there, how would you recommend? And this is something that I have also agreed with as well. It's networking. How would you recommend an actor build their network, and what are things you mentioned? Some things to avoid, like don't post anything too spicy things. But what are things that really like get a person's network going?
Well, I like to ask questions, and I like to. I do a number of different things. I just look at things that I would engage with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like looking at questions. Also, a colleague of mine who we wake up, we get twice a week. We have a meeting at 6:30 in the morning until noon, and we just market, or we work together on stuff, or we find all the things that our business is lacking, or we try to get ahead of the curve on certain things. And what we've also started doing is, I mean, we have full production equipment.
Yeah.
So we've started building out these very generic commercials about like we'll find an industry and we'll make just a generic commercial about it, and that's gotten a good bit of engagement and responses. Um, but I mean, just being you and posting your work, and I mean, it's not rocket science; it's just social media. I
Yeah.
do recommend keeping it uniform because branding is important, and I know that's gonna a lot of questions, and that's where I was overthinking a lot of stuff, was trying to figure out my branding,
Mm-hmm.
because when somebody saw one of my posts, I wanted them to know it was from me.
Right.
But in as far as like networking with people, in-person stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
in-person stuff's coming back, going to voiceover conferences, or just finding another VO and hopping in a Discord server or hopping on a Zoom meeting and talking to people. If you're on Facebook, Bev Standing has a Facebook group called the Water Cooler Chat.
Right.
What all that is if you have a break where you're not actively voicing stuff, you can go and put a link in that chat, and other voice actors who are not currently doing anything at the moment and can pop into it, they'll just pop into the Zoom meeting and hang out and have some water, or for me, I usually have coffee. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it just there's networking opportunities everywhere. It's just finding yourself a community, and finding a community that's going to help you grow.
Agreed.
uh, Finding where do you want to be, surround yourself with those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important because like it's really changed, and for me when I was doing this, it's like you start realizing, okay, who fits what stuff, who do you want to hang around, who really helps you, and vice versa, who do you help. Things like, for instance, like I like hanging around you because like it's like, oh great, not only am I getting help, I can also help however I can, and it's essentially a give and take process for everyone that you hang around with. And it's like, all right, cool, what can I give to them? And then you go vice versa and go from there, and it really helps a whole cycling process.
Yeah, and when the pandemic happened, what I initially did is I just sent out a bunch of Zoom invites to a bunch of people, whether it was somebody who I saw consistently posting in Facebook groups, or it was somebody that I like D. Bradley Baker, who I was
Right.
just familiar with growing up. I just got a bunch of people where I found their contact information through LinkedIn or Facebook or email, and I just sent them a Zoom invite and said, "Hey, I'd love to have coffee with you sometime." And so after doing so many, because I expected a lot of people to be a lot busier than they were, but I mean, people still either had time or were very gracious enough to lend me some time. So I met with Everett Oliver. It was a hilarious interaction. He sent me a thing, and I was like, "Hey, I wanted to see if you wanted to meet over Zoom and have coffee." And he was like, "Well, here's my business consultation form. It's $150." And I was like, "That's valuable and that's worth it, but that's not what I was looking for. I just wanted to meet you and get to know you." He said, "Call me." I said, "Okay." And so I called him, and we started. And I was like, "Yeah, no, I just wanted to have coffee and pick your brain a little bit." He's like, "Oh, yeah, we can do a Zoom meeting." So we did. And he found out what I was doing, sending Zoom invites to people, and he gave me the suggestion, well, why don't you turn it into a podcast?
Ah,
You're getting all of this amazing information from people, and you're getting so much from the community. Why don't you use this as a platform to both increase your visibility, so to share all of this amazing information that you're getting? And so I did a little research, and I didn't want a podcast where I was just asking the same 10 questions over and over and over again, because I had seen those questions answered on Vogue, or I had seen it through other interviews or through panels. And so I created a podcast called The Voiceover Coffee Shop,
mm-hmm.
where we sit, we have coffee, and I don't ask them what they booked 20 years ago that they might be famous for. I want to know what they're booking now.
Right.
And how are they booking it? How are they marketing? How are they creating new characters? How are they overcoming the hurdles of time? Because the only thing consistent is change. So as media and as the industry continues to grow and continues to change and continues to make new forms of media, how do you stay on top of that? And so I utilized a podcast, so that way, even when I'm sitting in my booth and I'm working, I'm still able to kind of keep a finger on the pulse and know what's going on in the industry.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then, which means you got into content creation as well. So that was another thing you can add. You were able to add as to your resume of experience as a voice actor. Like, oh, I do content creation, which was one of the things that I had tried content creation beforehand with a few other projects, and they didn't pan out. But then I was like, well, what do I do for voiceover? I was like, I want to keep myself busy. I like to keep myself busy and not sit on my hands and just watch things go by. So I was like, well, why don't we try the content creation game again? And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, what would we do? Like, actually think. And so, like you mentioned, the stuff I learned from whether it be you or other people that I learned, because it's like 3 years getting involved in communities one after another, making them. In some cases, I had been administering them through adminship. I was like, well, what is a good way to share? And then that's how this came about. And then after I saw the video start picking up on my page, I was like, this might actually be a good idea. And it's fun too. Like, I don't feel like I'm coming to work like, oh God, I gotta go to work and do this again. It starts to become fun and engaging, which then
Watching you grow has been amazing.
thank you. It's like, it's a humbling experience, and I think you can relate as well when you start coming back to these people that have helped you in your career, like you helping me, and it's like, hey, I took everything you taught me and I just went forward with it, and it's good to see. So I did forget to ask this question earlier because I normally ask it. Since we cover video games as well, what are you looking forward to playing, or what is one of your favorites to play?
What am I looking forward to playing, or what is one of my favorites? I mean, I don't play a ton of video games, to be completely honest, and I mean, a lot of that's just a time thing. I mean, I'm in front of a screen a majority of the day, so when I can get out, I like to actually get out and do things.
Yep.
But I mean, I've still been playing Tiny Tina's Wonderland a good bit. I've still been playing the new Call of Duty game. I've always been a big fan of like their zombie modes and stuff like that, like the exosuits. I loved Call of Duty Exos. I don't know. I haven't really kept it. I guess with me being a video game voiceover artist, I should start keeping track of what video games are coming out and what studios are producing them. But yeah, I haven't really played a ton of video games.
Yes.
Tiny Tina's. I've been going back and replaying Portal. That's been fun.
Yes, Portal's always a good one. But it's one of the reasons why I ask is because, for those who don't know, this is actually being recorded like on the release date of Tears of the Kingdom.
And I will never stop playing Stray.
There you go.
Such a fun game. It's so good. Are you telling me that I can disassociate for a little bit and go solve puzzles as a cat? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it's so well done.
Mm-hmm.
This post-apocalyptic robotic slum that you're navigating around. It's such a well done game. I love that game.
Yeah. I looked at it, I was like, ooh, I need a PS5 for this one. So
There is there is a game that is coming out on Steam. I think it's coming out on Steam. It might be for consoles too. That I am kind of excited about. It's called A Bone to Pick.
ah.
So after playing Stray, now I really want to play this one. So you're a dog,
Mm-hmm.
but you're a dog detective. So you just go about your day like as a dog. But then like when you go home, you go into like your room where like you have like you know, I mean, very stereotypical like detective desk and like maps of the city with like pens and strings and stuff. And so the point of the game is you're a detective trying to find your bone.
Mm.
And so like it looks like really it sounds like a very simple concept, and it is, but it sounds like a really like looking at the trailers and looking what they're doing with the game, it looks very very detailed, and
Mm-hmm.
they put a lot of work into it. It looks fun.
That sounds fun and stuff. I would like to look. I think I'll look that up on Steam later. So, as we wrap up a bit, to sum this up really, what is it that drives you to do this, to be a voice actor, or a successful voice actor at that one too?
There's a mix of things. I mean, this gives me every piece of voiceover gives something to me.
Mm-hmm.
If it's animation and video games, it allows me to play and bring something to life. If it's a commercial, then it allows me to put a piece of myself onto the script. If it's e-learning, I'm a forever student. I love e-learning. Every time I get an e-learning script, I get to learn something new, and that's fun. And also with the broader media side of things, media is a big piece of nostalgia. The things that we grew up with, the old zoo book commercials that we heard over and over and over again, all the characters that we became attached to and wore their shirts, or the video games that we played, or the radio guy that we heard over and over and over when our mom drove us to school. All of that becomes a part of who we are and our memories, and hey, do you remember this old thing? Yeah. Oh, we start doing like Carl Weezer impressions, and we start doing all of these things to remember these common things that we had as kids. And I would be honored to be a piece, just a piece of the nostalgia for the future generations, for my kids. I mean, I'm working on a couple of TV shows right now that I can't really say the name of because they haven't been released, but I'm working on a couple of really big shows for some really big networks, and I'm excited for those to come out because all I can say is one of them is about little princesses that help people, and I play a couple of characters in that, and I'm excited to show that to my daughter.
Yeah.
Like I'm like there are a lot of different things that drive me, and I mean all of them are magic. This is cause it's really hard. This job is difficult, and it takes every day, and you'll have early mornings and you'll have late nights because clients need things in a quick turnaround, and you are dedicated to providing good quality service and good quality audio. But I mean, being able to being able to say something, whether it's my words or someone else's words, and be heard, and the ability to collaborate with such amazing creatives and to make such amazing things. I mean, one of my favorite projects that I've worked on in the past year was with two gentlemen named Luke Trustee and Morgan Elgarten, and they wrote a project called For Goodness Sake.
Really?
And it was an audio drama, and they brought in just a team of actors that they knew would be really good. They brought in me, they brought in Nicholas Carr, they brought in our friend Amy, they brought in some really talented people, and they spent months writing this project and putting everything into it. And I mean, sometimes we couldn't even hang out because they were like, no man, I need to finish this by the deadline.
Right.
And it was amazing. And I'm not just saying it because I'm the narrator and like two main characters. It was amazing. It was one of the greatest things that I've ever been able to work on. The writing was brilliant. The sound design was amazing. Like I put everything I could into it, and I gave my best acting ability, and I brought those characters to life, but they brought the story to life.
Mm-hmm.
And so working with other creatives is just such a magical experience. It's amazing. I would never give it up. I could never work another job. It
Yeah.
would never bring me as much joy as this one does.
Exactly. And then at the same time, it's there, because I have a new topic that'll come up. It's like, what is a real job? Because you hear people throw it around. It's like, get a real job. It's like, well, what is a real job? Is it a job you got to clock in 9 to 5 and work on someone else's time? Or is it a job that you enjoy, that you can also make a living off of, even if you have to put in that hard work to do it?
I run a multimedia audio business.
Exactly. See?
That's
So,
what I have to say.
yeah, there you go. See, taxes as well. So I'll start looking into that as well. But also too, it's like people have had the chance to create. I think, like you said, Luke, which I had reconnected with earlier, and I was really happy to do so. And he's a really cool guy. Morgan as well, he's doing good. And then they hear that they're making these kind of projects now after where I met them at first, because I met them as an administrator of a server. And I was like, oh, hey, they're cool right here. And now they're on to things. You're on to things. I'm on to things. Everyone that we're like still networking with stuff over Jackbox, sometimes they're on to different things, and they're enjoying it and bringing what it is that makes them unique to these processes to make them better, and then all of that together to make something really good.
I enjoy being around people that strive to not be the same person they were yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what those people are. Even in the time span with which I've known them, they have grown, and you've grown astronomically. Jesus Christ! But all of these people just have grown so much, and it just kind of have figured out where they want their journeys to go, or some have just kind of been winging it, but they're still carving it, and they're still building, and they are building, and they are putting their heart and soul into it, and man, has some amazing stuff come out of it.
Yeah, I agree. So as we close up, where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me at andrewdmorrison.com. Most of my socials are at DrewMorrisonVO, and the voiceover coffee shop is at vocoffeeshop.com, or wherever fine podcasts are distributed.
Nice. I will make sure to link those all in this video, but also too, really appreciate you coming on. Shared so much that I think we both know is important for people who are starting off and others who are in it and kind of need a reminder as well to remember and really help develop their careers. But it's been fun. I appreciate you. I appreciate having you, and just in general, getting the chance to talk to you. See, I can't talk, and I'm supposed to do this for a living. Things.
No worries,
but,
man. I run over my words all the time.
but no, it's been great, and I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. This has been a blast, dude.
Yep. Check out the links below, people, and where you can find Drew, and check out more of his work as it comes in.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll see you around.